And we are live. Welcome to day 92 of This Is Not Advice. You've got me, Min, and Roy from Bloomberg Beta, where we focus on the future of work. And this week we've been asking questions about startup firsts. And we have a special guest today, Alex Cohen, who is the founder of CommandDot, which is a command line for your inbox. Alex is actually a second-time founder, and his first company, Birch, was free for its entire life. And so now when he started CommandDot, he decided that I'm going to take a different tact. And so we wanted to ask him some questions about how do I know when I should start charging for my product? So thanks for being here, Alex.
Yeah, this is exciting. I've been watching a bunch of these for, I guess, 92 days now, and it's exciting to be on one of the ones live.
Well, you got to tell us what the questions are we have to hit, and you got to give us feedback on, like you, we're just iterating on a product. Ours is maybe a little less consequential to the world, just sharing what we're knowing. But feedback from people who know how to get it is always really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll think about some more questions that you can build into the next 92.
Okay, so how did you decide that you wanted to charge for a product?
Yeah, so we didn't at first. So when we launched the very first MVP back in January, maybe, which is when you and I first met, that was a free, very early MVP to just get some interest, see how people were using it, do a bunch of user testing, understand why people were using the product, what their scheduling pain points were. So right now, our first app removes the need to leave your inbox to go to your calendar to schedule times. And that was intentionally free just to get a few dozen people on it who were in our target demographics, so knowledge workers who schedule a bunch of meetings externally, learned a whole bunch from that, and then decided, okay, let's go build the product that we think everyone would use daily and will that into existence. And then if it provides value to people, let's charge for it from day one. I think Zane, my co-founder, has had a bunch of influence on the pricing and how we got to the price we're at, how we're charging early on, how people should think about premium software in a way that doesn't feel commoditized. I think what we see is a lot of SaaS companies end up with month-long free trials or 2-week free trials or amazing free plans where like Evernote, you never get off the free plan because it's so great. And we wanted to take the opposite approach and say, if this provides value to people, they should be paying for it. And let's do that from the beginning. And the way that we've set it up is if they don't feel like they're getting value, we won't continue to charge them, and we'll work with them to get a refund because the software is not for them. And so sort of this fundamental belief on if the software is great for that person, they'll pay for it, they won't feel bad about it, and they'll feel like they're spending their money on something that's valuable to them and saves them time.
So just to make sure I understand, the logic, one of the reasons I think pricing is so hard for people is that it wraps up a lot of, and the reason it's so powerful is it wraps a lot of choices into one. It's like, what is our long-term business model? How profitable will this thing be? It sounds like of the many things that you could solve for, what you were solving for is, and I'm restating, so you can correct me if it's wrong, is how do I get evidence that this is actually useful to someone?
Yes. Yeah, I think there's a couple things to unpack there. One is it's very uncomfortable to charge early on when you feel this sort of, I think, founder's guilt of, is the product good enough that we can charge people for it? Is it too early? When's the right time? I don't know. Given this is the first product that I've personally charged for, it's hard to say whether this feels any different than waiting a longer period of time and charging. And so I don't know if it would feel just as uncomfortable asking people to put in their credit cards in 6 months from now versus today. So might as well just do it today. And then to your other point, I think it's a great proxy for determining if someone's getting value out of it. So pricing early on does a couple things for us, at least. One is, yes, it proves that people are willing to pay and that there's value there because they're paying. The second is it gets people really bought in. And so we know who to prioritize from day one versus getting a whole bunch of freeloaders and people who want access to something early who are going to churn. And we get to weed those people out from day one. And we probably, I don't know the exact conversion rate from the number of people that I invite off who then end up either agreeing to pay or telling me, no, it's too expensive. I guess it's somewhere around 50-50 right now. That probably feels like 1 out of every 2 responses is either a yes or a no. And that feels like the right amount of sort of drop off right now to know that pricing is okay. Maybe we'll go up and see if conversion ends up staying the same or dropping lower, but it weeds out all the people who aren't a great fit for a product that's now 3.5 months in a different form.
So I think what I hear you saying is the choice to price was based on the desire to get evidence. The level is a matter of feel where you're adjusting up and down. You're not necessarily maximizing the revenue per lead that you can have, as you're just trying to figure out what feels right for now.
Yeah, the general rule of thumb that I've heard is whatever you think is right, double it and then go and price that. And I think that that's probably a true assessment. Like I wanted to start somewhere around $10 or $15 a month. And now we're double that. We're at $25 a month, which we think is what will be our cost per seat. And I think a lot of SaaS founders miss out on that opportunity. They price too low. Rahul from Superhuman has an interesting thought on this that I heard in a recent podcast where he says, ask your users what they're willing to pay and what would be too much. And there's this like interesting middle ground that you can find. And that's how they got to their pricing. But we genuinely we looked at other software, saw what people are charging and said, let's double it and build a premium brand.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think that there's a lot in there. One is that your price choice is a big part of your brand. So you decided you wanted to align it with other choices like a premium. Mm-hmm. I think Rahul has shown in many cases how wise he is. I think I've found asking people what they would pay to not even be directionally useful. We have no access to our own minds, as payers for things. And so the only choice that matters is like you, ask them for a price and see how they respond. And I think there's an interesting question around how malleable the price is over time, because you're selling to a lot of end users. You have a price that's quite malleable in the sense that if you get the first 1,000 people wrong, you have a bajillion others. Whereas if you were selling an enterprise product to the Fortune 100, well, then you're going to be a little more careful because each bullet or each attempt, I don't like military analogies, is more valuable. Do you, is it ever too early, in your opinion, now to start charging for something?
Yeah, I think we definitely, and I'm glad we did not charge for the very first MVP version. It was really pressure testing. Can we get something into market and just see if people will respond well to it? And the overwhelming number of people that said like, holy shit, I need this was high. And so it was, I think like phase one for us was testing if there was just interest in the product that we were building. Now phase two is pressure testing pricing. And that was also when we raised our first round. That was my sort of promise to investors is we're going to do two things. Like if we do two things at the end of this round, I think that we're successful. One is, building a sticky, addictive product that people are using daily or weekly. And then the second is proving that people will pay for it and there's value there. And so far we've done both pretty well. I think you're right. Like asking people for pricing is not going to lead to the best result of where your pricing should be. And in our case, what I did instead was I ran a couple of Twitter polls and said, how much does your company let you expense per person without approval for, having to submit some sort of expense report? And actually half the responses out of 800 or something were over $50 a month for software. And so I sort of said, okay, wait, are we underpricing our software now? Should we go up to and we probably will. At some point we'll go from 25 for more of a prosumer plan to $40 for enterprise to $60 or $70 for EAs or whatever that job is. And sort of, it is malleable. Like you said, we're not selling a 7-figure contract to a Fortune 500. And then if we get it wrong, it's very hard to change. We have that opportunity to keep testing and experimenting with pricing.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, my rule of thumb is think about how much you should charge and then 10x it. Because most people, I found the psychological temptation from founders and investors is to undercharge. Investors have this idea that economics 101 holds, and therefore if you price less, you'll grow faster. Not true at the early stages. It's scary to charge more because you have to live up to it. Yeah. And so you can end up in this like pretty awkward place. Also, one of my role models in this is Bloomberg, where Mike was like, relative to the value I think a customer gets, I think it's worth $1,000 a month. Just waited until somebody was willing to pay what he thought it was worth. And then he has steadily increased the price since then. And that has turned out to be a very good strategy. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but I think your point about looking what other comparable software costs and charging based on that, I mean, that does feel like how people decide. And then maybe we'll save for another day all the delicious questions around pricing structure, free trial, no free trial. As somebody who's doing a get out the vote volunteer project, a powerful lesson I've learned from our collaborators is, if you only have less than 30 days left to use the thing you're going to use, everything can be free to you, which we're not a representative customer, but I think that's a powerful insight about whether you start to charge on moment zero or not.
Yeah, I guess it's also what you're optimizing for. Some companies are optimizing for just super large top of funnel growth, but I've met with founders who are doing the free model, like free trial for 2 weeks, and we'll put you into some sort of either paid plan or we'll keep you on free depending on usage. And the feedback that I get privately is like, I wish we weren't doing this because people are churning and they don't tell us why they're churning and they don't respond to our emails and we have to go pay them, give them Amazon gift cards to respond versus we actually have a public roadmap that we share with everyone who signs up. And I have to respond to it 3 times a day when people are adding feature requests and submitting bugs and saying they want this and that because they've paid to get access to this and they want it to work. I'm probably giving away a lot of secrets that we hold. So, if our competitors are watching this, we'll see if they adjust their pricing.
The competitor that got beat because let's put it this way, pricing strategy feels to me like one of these things, positive if you agree with this, and then maybe we'll wrap, where it's like, you can win by having a great pricing strategy, but if you are public about your pricing strategy and that's all it takes for you to lose, should have built a better product.
Yeah, we clearly don't have a big enough moat if price is the thing that, if someone else copying our pricing is the thing.
Or just wisdom about how you selected your pricing, even more than just copying the pricing. The other thing that I think is interesting for you, which again, is subject for another day, is pricing when a product has a network effect, as yours certainly may have, is another interesting question because the value to the company of a customer is both its price to them and it's the customer's value in terms of the customer's influence on the value to other customers. And so you see cases where, participating for free in a way that gives you data and enhances the network can be useful in some ways because you don't want to deter somebody who might otherwise contribute to the network effect. But I think that's a delicious nuance we can get to another day.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the last thought for me on pricing and how we've thought about pricing is two ways. One is how much time you're saving is the clear, obvious calculation. If you make $50 an hour and we save you 4 hours a month, is it worth it to spend $25 to save 200? The less analytical way is, how many deals are you losing because you're sending someone a booking link or something that's impersonal and you're breaking that social dynamic of, imagine trying to go raise money and sending a bunch of VCs a booking link. Like, will you go successfully raise, or is it worth it for you to spend $25 a month to never potentially run into that and lose what could be $1 million or $5 million or whatever the cost of that deal is to you? So there's some other interesting components to it. And right now, I mean, we don't really like upsell anyone and push a really hard sale on them, but that's sort of our pitch to larger companies is let's get all your salespeople on this because they really shouldn't be sending widgets in their email from these booking services when they're trying to close really important deals to move the needle on your business. So there's some other interesting angles for us of what justifies that price beyond just the clear time-saving component.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that's really valid. I think that it's an excellent way to think about it. And you don't know the user who actually explicitly thinks that way. That may be what drives their decisions. And so it's great for you to have, I guess my point is, for you to have more rigor about how to think about the value you offer your user, then your user is great. It's not their job to calculate. It's their job to make some decisions, Yeah. But I love that thoughtfulness, Alex. I really appreciate it. Folks, I guess, can go to, how do folks get on the wait list again?
Just CommandDot.com, put in your email, click sign up. I'll get a notification, and we're inviting hundreds of people a week off the wait list to join our paid alpha. And we'd love to have everyone watching this join as well.
I love it. One of the things that we really believe about the future of work is that the way that software engineers work is a first draft for how many of us will work. And we want command lines for all the things. And so the fact that you're building that is really fabulous. And thank you for sharing it and building it so that we all get to partake.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much.
Thanks for being on. And for anyone else, send us your questions or guest recommendations. Alex, we might invite you to come back on because I feel like you have lots of thoughts on many other things as well. And so thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you.